All right, hello and welcome, folks, to another episode of the Undercard. Today we're going to be talking about UFC 245, and let me start off by saying, holy shit, this was the card to watch. I was not expecting it to be as explosive as an event as it was, but from start to finish, just good match after good match. There wasn't really anything to be too bored about. All in all, just an amazing prelim, amazing main card. Even early prelims, we had some good fights. All in all, just a stacked card. What a way for the UFC to kind of end the year out. They definitely ended the year out on a high note. And, just looking forward to seeing more from the UFC. I mean, I had a thought earlier in the week that maybe some of these fights aren't as hyped up as they should be because the UFC is just pumping out so many events. But lo and behold, they came out with an amazing card. Like I says, from start to finish, there was so many good fights, and I was actually surprised to see some of the people who were fighting on some of the early prelims, you know what I mean? Like, I was shocked to find that Jessica Eyes, somebody who went from fighting Amanda Nunes, her last fight, going from a main card to a prelim card, and she fought a newcomer who's making her American pro MMA debut, Viviana Alejandro Arenano. I'm sorry, I butcher a lot of these names. But, what a great fight. That fight could have been one of the... that fight leading into the main card would have been fight of the night, Old man Uriah Faber had a hell of a fight, trying to stick in strong against a much younger, much stronger, much eager opponent in Peter Yan. Uriah Faber at the age of 40 showing why he is still, a true champion, right? He may not have that crown, but, the guy comes to fight, very entertaining fight. Unfortunately, a stoppage, but, like I says, there was just so many hype fights. Another good fight that I enjoyed was still another one that was on the prelims, was Chase Hooper versus Daniel Tayamir. And, that was just another crazy back and forth fight. It ended pretty quick in the first round, but it had looked like Hooper was in a bad spot. He was able to pop out, put Tayamir in a nasty rear naked choke, and I don't know how Daniel managed to get out of that, but I thought he had him done for sure. And then Chase showing how slick he was and showing that, he's starting to become he's starting to realize the tools in his wheelhouse, what works for him, what doesn't work for him. He's still a young kid. He managed to slap on and transition from rear naked choke to mount. And then he ended up getting a triangle choke and just laying down, or not laying down, but more so raining down vicious elbows. And Daniel... they had to stop the fight. He had a nasty gash, and the ref stepped in a good spot, right, saving Daniel from taking too much damage. Also, and here we are still on the prelims, talking prelims fight. Brandon Moreno, right, Mexican fighter versus Australians Key Kara-Ferris was another amazing scrap. I want to see these two scrap it out again soon. Very back and forth until Brandon definitely took it over in the third round, but Ferris kept making it a fight. You know what I mean? Moreno had the more solid strikes. You can tell that he was more the explosive fighter. You know what I mean? He had that Mexican fighting spirit in him. And he came to scrap, right? But Ferris, no slouch either, right? He came in there to trade paint, and this was a hell of a war. Another one of these fights where it could have been fight of the night had it not been for that Colby Covington, Kamaru Usman fight. It was just hype. Um, Jessica Ai's fight versus that Alejandro, she was able to come out and prove as to like why she is a number two. It was a good It was also a good fight for Viviana to kind of realize that like there's levels to this game, right? Because up until then, she had just been kind of running through the division, right? But this is a woman that came in from like I believe she really didn't even have a record in the UFC. She had a fight, I forget exactly against who, but it like catapulted her into like a fifth ranking, right? So which is pretty wild. She's still a young girl. She's got a lot of time to kind of put more things together, but we'll be seeing lots from her in the future for sure. As for Jessica Ai, hopefully this gets her out of the prelims, gets her back up into the the main card, but she also had some weight issues coming into this fight. She ended up being 5 pounds a little bit too heavy, which, it's good to see that she had kind of fixed a few things in her camp. She had been struggling with back issues, but, apparently now that she's got a few of those things figured out, she just needs to figure out a few more things, and hopefully we'll get this weight issue in order, and, she'll have a, not that she'll have a better showing because she had a hell of a showing, you know what I mean? Her skills were top notch, but hopefully won't have trouble with the making of the weight there. As for the very first fight of the night, it was Serrano versus Pichota. This ended up in a first round KO. Serrano, just beast of a man. Not that Pichora is, you know what I mean, no laughing matter. These guys were like big boys in the ring, you know what I mean, and he had a good record of himself of 11-3-1. But this fight reminded me of a classic quote from Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson said, everybody's got a game plan until they get punched in the face, right? And that's kind of what it seemed like. Pichora got smashed early and was always on the back pedal, was never really able to become the aggressor again in that fight, and just fought defensively and was always backpedaling, and Serrano just smelt blood in the water and did his thing, right? Fucking smashed him, and it was over. As for some of the other prelim cards, like that, what we were just talking about there, that was just mainly like the early prelim cards. This wasn't even on like the ESPN. That was the stuff that we were watching pretty much like, well, I guess we're not going to call it free because the Fight Pass is $9.99 a month. But if you had UFC Fight Pass, like you got all those early prelim fights. And like I said, it was just so hype. And then as soon as we went from the Fight Pass, we jump right into ESPN 1, and the very first fight, oh my god, like two big names right off the bat, Ben Saunders and Matt Brown. These guys both had some time off, but let me tell you, Matt Brown looked like it did wonders for his game. I forget exactly the amount of period that he had off, but the dude is a warrior. He comes into a bang, and I'm going to be honest, I think a lot of people put too much stock into these people's wins and losses, you know what I mean? As somebody who enjoys fights, I really don't care about an L if they like go out on their shield, I'm here to watch entertaining fights, right? So when I see a guy like Matt Brown who's got a record of 21-16, a guy like Saunders that's like 22-13, right? I don't get too worried about that, I both know that both of these guys are like high-level strikers, high-level fucking ground game, right? Both of these guys are just journeymen pretty much, had some tough losses, but they always come back stronger. However, Matt Brown beat the hell out of Saunders. He ended up KOing him in the second round and landed some nasty shots. I believe it was an elbow that stopped that. And Matt Brown emerges victorious yet again. Looking forward to seeing exactly what else he can do in the upcoming future here. Now, another fight, I unfortunately missed it because I had to go and take my dog out, so I really can't comment too much on it. Akhmedov versus Ian Heinich. Fuck, I am terrible with these goddamn names. I apologize to anybody that watches this and is just like, what the fuck is this moron trying to say? It's not my intention to butcher these. Anyway, so that Akhmedov fight ended up going the distance and a decision. What can I say? I'd imagine so that was a pretty entertaining fight, right? These guys, look like they both had amazing records, right? 24-1 is nothing to be snuffed at, right? And Ian's record of 13-3, I'm pretty sure I'm gonna have to rewatch this fight. This one probably was another good scrap, and I unfortunately missed it. I had to take the dog out for a little bit of a walk. Another fight, I didn't really know much about this next fight with the for the women's bantamweight. It was Catalina Vieira. Oof, another one of these names. Brazilian fighter, came in 10-0, was on quite the streak. Very, very high things for her, she was, I believe, ranked number 2 coming into this fight. And she ran into a Mexican fighter, scrapper, Irina Aldana. And, these women came out here and were banging. Irina managed to land a nasty left cross onto the jaw of Viviana. And dropped her, right? It was a pretty vicious knockout, and as soon as it went to the ground, she landed another overhand strike, looped down, and the ref stepped in and put an end to that pretty quick. So like I said, another good scrap, another KO. The last fight that they had on the preliminary cards was like easily another fight that they could have had on the main card, up and coming. Well, both of these guys are still up and coming, really. We had an amazing scrap in the welterweight division. The welterweight division is definitely stacked. Probably the most talented division in the UFC is the welterweight division. It's just booming with talent, booming with fucking big, huge dudes that have got like fucking mad power, right? And, two dudes fighting right here were Jeff O'Neal and Mike Perry, and both these dudes pack some serious power. Perry was on a little bit of a win streak. He's kind of one of those guys that, he goes out and he'll die on his shield, right? The dude is there to bang. He's not there to just win fights. He's there to fucking kill people. And, there's something to be said about a guy like that, just brings so much excitement and, just makes it fun to watch. You know what I mean? You know that something crazy is going to happen in that ring, right? It's just a matter of when, right? But Jeff O'Neal, Jesus Christ, came on in there and did his business. Fucking ended up knocking out Mike Perry. Perry felt like it was a little bit early, but Jeff O'Neal came out there, high head kick, and just dropped him. It was, didn't finish him with a high head kick, right? But I had stunned him and then just unloaded with some hands, right? Amazing scrap. I think we're going to see Jeff Neal. Maybe he's going to step up in competition, probably have a couple fights there, probably fight a couple top 10ers. He's ranked 14th right now. What he really needs is probably a couple fights at the top 5. Maybe a top 8 contender next, and I'm sure we're going to see some great things from Jeff Neal. Now, like I had mentioned earlier, we had an amazing scrap. The very first fight on the pay-per-view was Peter Yan versus Uriah Faber. Now, for y'all that don't know anything about Peter Yan, Yan is an upcoming young talent. He's ranked number 4. I mean, if you guys don't know who he is by now, you guys have definitely been sleeping on this kid. This kid is relentless, strong. His striking is some of the most elite in the UFC. It's definitely in the upper echelon. And, this kid just comes to fight, Him and Faber had a good little scrap going on, and a little bit of back and forth, a little bit of jaw-jacking between the two of them. But great competitive spirit between the two of them. These guys are very respectful. Were respectful to each other. Uriah Faber definitely was in trouble, though, early, right? There was a couple things I didn't like during the fight there. When a fighter gets hurt and then they kind of like smile at the other fighter, you know what I mean? It's a telltale sign that you took a bunch of damage. I wish guys would hold like more of a poker face when they're scrapping. Like in my mind, it's just like, oh, you fucking got me. I don't want to even show that. You know what I mean? I want to fucking get mine on you next. Like that's more so my mentality. I don't need to let you know that you fucking hurt me. Fuck that. I want to hurt you, right? But at the same time, my thoughts on the whole Uriah Faber, I think he should probably hang him up now. He got beat up really bad in that fight. I'm surprised that the referees didn't stop that fight after Jan had landed the most vicious of elbows. He ended up splitting Faber right on the eye. It was pretty nasty. Hematoma up in just like seconds, but it looked very vicious at first, but then the ref came in, got the doctor to come take a look at it, and the doctor was just like, nope, keep him fighting, we're good, right? And I was kind of shocked. I thought that they were going to stop it there, but lo and behold, he was good to see. It wasn't visually impaired, it wasn't bleeding into the eye, it just looked a lot more fucked than what it was, right? So after that, Peter just started teeing off on that eye, and just, Uriah couldn't take it anymore. He was hurt and never really fully recovered. But as I was saying about Uriah before, it was amazing to see that, and I give him all props to this, no way am I talking, shit about Uriah Faber, but I think he just might be at the point where he's just too old for this, looked a little bit... he was solid, but he didn't look conditioned, you know what I mean? As if, he had that cardio to really go, But who am I to really say, you know what I mean? These guys at 170, their builds these guys at bantamweight, right? Their builds, he seemed like he was a little bit stocky for that fight, you know what I mean? Maybe it's a cardio thing, right? But maybe it's also, fuck, the dude's 40, it's hard to kind of push yourself like he once used to, you know what I mean? That hunger's probably not there anymore, but at the same time too, Uriah had an amazing last fight. It ended up pretty quick, he made short work of, I forget who he scrapped, right? But he ended it with a knee. And, good on him for wanting to not just take any fight, you know what I mean? He took a fight that would kind of potentially, if he had beat Jan, we would have been talking about Uriah Faber getting another title shot real quick, That's my absolute 100% belief. So, more props to Uriah Faber, you got to give the guy a fucking, a moral victory. You know what I mean? I'm not big onto moral victories, but for this, I definitely would give it to Uriah Faber. Like I says, he came out there, didn't take the easy fight. He took the hard fight, and, unfortunately didn't get the result he wanted. But, at least let him know exactly where he stood, in his career, and we'll see exactly where he'll go from here. Next fight of the night was in the bantamweight division. It was Jose Aldo versus Marlon Morales. Both Brazilians, I believe. Jose Aldo has been the face of, the 145 division for so long, right? And to see him drop down to the 135 division, he himself had said that he's felt great, he's never felt better than before. And he says he should have been in this division long time ago. Long time ago. Now, unfortunately, I didn't get to see how this fight ended. And I was shocked to find out that the decision went to Morales. Because it seemed like in the first 2 rounds, I thought it was Jose Aldo's fight. I must have, I forgot exactly what happened. I must have had a phone call come in. But unfortunately, I missed the 3rd round. So I'm going to have to go back and rewatch this fight. But maybe somebody leave me in the comments below exactly if maybe Aldo got starched in the 3rd round or something, right? But I'll have to go back, rewatch this one as soon as they get it up for us people to watch again. And then, like New York, we had 3 title fights to close out the last fight for the UFC for 2019. And I'll be honest, I think out of all the scraps that I ended up watching, this the Nunes versus Durandamy was kind of the snoozer of them all, to be honest. It was a 5-round scrap. It wasn't nothing too exciting. The only exciting thing that happened was when Jermaine Durandamy ended up having Nunes in a triangle choke, but you could just tell that Durandamy's ground game is just not at the level of where it needs to be facing somebody with such a high-level jiu-jitsu game. Now, that being said, too, Jermaine Durandamy has been making massive strides on the ground, right? Her ground game has gotten, 100% better from, the first time when these 2 women first fought. I think it was, 6 years ago or something like that. Might have been 4 years ago. Don't quote me or don't hold me on that. But you could definitely tell that there was progression in Randamy's game. But you could definitely tell that it was more of through a defensive sort of means, right? And she needs to now start learning on how to attack from the ground. She was trying to throw some wild strikes from the bottom, and those kind of work. But at the same time, too, those leave you in a really bad, vulnerable position. Other highlights that I also remember from that was I know Amanda Nunes' corner, they were telling her, watch the up kicks, and she got clipped by an up kick. You saw her get stunned, but, Nunes is tough as fucking nails, granite fucking chin, and she was able to power through that. Now, this wasn't the most cleanest victory that we've seen from Nunes or anything like that. This was a real scrap. So, all in all, she still walked away with that belt. It was an okay scrap to watch, but definitely one of the more boring fights of the night. What can we say about Durandamy? Hopefully, she gets back in that gym, you know what I mean, and starts to get a little bit better. I wouldn't mind seeing her try and get after this belt one more time. Definitely one more time. As for Nunes, that woman is on a phenomenal tear. She is just a complete fucking utter badass, and I always wonder as to why she is not a bigger fucking star than she is right now. You know what I mean? Because as for star power, has the UFC made her larger than fucking Ronda Rousey? Have they? In my opinion, no, they have not. Right? We don't hold Amanda Nunes' name in the same breath as we do Ronda Rousey, and it's a shame because, you know what I mean? She beat the fuck out of Ronda Rousey. Right? But there's still not enough attention on this woman. Now, I don't know if that's part of Nunes's people that are around her, you know what I mean? Because let's face it, as a fighter, you're just really concentrating on fighting, right? So you need to have a team of people around you to help you with your social and this and that, right? Maybe she's just not that type of person, right? So maybe that has something to do with it. I don't entirely know, but I do know one thing is that, with the LGBT community being as big as it is now, like, she should be the face of the UFC. You know what I mean? And just like plastered everywhere. And I don't know. I just don't think that they put in enough into her to make her a bigger deal than she really is. You know what I mean? Like, she's probably one of the greatest fighters the UFC has ever had. You know what I mean? And they just, I don't know. I just don't know. They just don't put enough into her for whatever reason. It's very curious. Well, co-main event was Max Holloway, Alexander Volkanovski. Fuck, these names kill me. And let me tell you, this was a good scrap. Another one that went to the decision. And I'm kind of glad to see Max Holloway lose finally, Not to take anything from Max Holloway. Max Holloway is a great martial artist, fucking tons of talent and this and that, right? But my biggest problem with Max Holloway is the same problem that I had with Kenny Florian. Big, tall-ass fucking dudes, lanky motherfuckers that don't pack on any muscle and like to fight smaller men. I mean, is that really what mixed martial arts is about? Isn't it about testing your abilities? Right? Like I says, the dude is talented, but, what's a guy that's like close to 6'1" doing fighting at 145 fucking pounds anyways? You know what I mean? Like the 150-pound division? Like, fuck off with that shit, right? Move up some fucking weight class, right? That way it makes things more exciting in a smaller fucking division. And that way you don't have these tall guys that just like, it's impossible for a smaller guy to get in on him, right? Especially with the boxing skills that he has. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm not taking anything away from Max's fucking skills. They're top notch. Elite level fucking striking, elite level grappling, elite fucking everything. He checks the boxes on fucking everything. You know what I mean? But bigger men fighting in smaller divisions don't like it. So I was glad to see Volkanovski pick him apart. And, he took out his legs pretty quick. By the end of the first round, we saw Max switching stances, right? His legs took a beating, kept taking a beating. He was able to box Volkanovski a little bit, but Volkanovski kept getting to the inside and just laid a beating. These guys traded paint a little bit, and it just, for me, it all came down to the legs. Max's legs took a fucking beating, and when you get beat to the legs like that early on in the fight, right, in Thai boxing, it's you beat the legs and then you drop the guard down, right, and then that's when you start teeing off to the head, right, and that's what Alexander the Great was trying to do. Didn't put him away, went to a decision. Max was a little bit in disbelief, but, we're going to see him back again, and hopefully we're gonna get the same results, because I want to see smaller men hold this belt. I don't want to see these big tall guys. These big tall guys, almost need to move up in weight and get out of the fucking division, right? But that's just one man's opinion. No way in hell am I saying that Max Holloway is a bum or anything like that. I think he's an amazing fighter, amazing individual. The dude's got the heart of a champion, right? I would just like to see him pack on some muscle, maybe work with like a personal trainer or something like that, and, get after it, right? I'd like to see him fight Dustin Poirier again, right? See if he can get that fight back, right? We'll see. Who knows? Hoo-wee! Now let me tell you guys, this main event was hype as fuck. Colby Covington versus Kamaru Usman. Holy fuck, was this exciting. This was a lot of back and forth, These guys absolutely fucking hated each other, But I think what everybody forgets is that nobody gave a fuck about Colby Covington before the whole like Brazilian kind of like tirade that he had there, right? When he started like losing his shit and becoming this loudmouth, right? Everybody thinks that that is who Colby Covington is. I'm here to tell you it's not. He's just playing a fucking character. The Colby Covington you and I see is just some fucking clown that he made so that he could get attention onto him. Unfortunately, the fight game has become so toxic that if you yourself are not a toxic individual who goes around talking all kinds of shit, nobody gives a fuck about you. That's the era that we are in these days, right? It's all about who can make the loudest noise. We don't give a fuck about what you do in the ring. We just give a fuck about what you do out of the ring. And that's the problem with the UFC right now. You know what I mean? Nobody gives a fuck about what anybody's doing inside the ring. Everybody gives a fuck about, the shit they're talking outside of the ring. You know what I mean? More people are interested in fucking Twitter wars instead of just fucking going in the ring and fucking settling it, It's becoming super pathetic, right? But that's unfortunately why Colby Covington has to do what he has to do. Coming out with his fucking $3 fucking cheap suits and his fucking mega hat on and, just fucking Trump this and Trump that, It's all a fucking show. Nobody gave a fuck about him. This dude was almost cut before fucking he became anything. And let's be honest, as much as we hate the fucking character that he's portraying and playing, right? The dude's got fucking talent for fucking days. If you're sleeping on Colby Covington, then you're a fucking moron. A lot of people says this guy's got no skills and this and that. Did y'all see how he fucking picked apart Robbie Lawler? That was fucking systematical, fucking problematical. That was just fucking the craziest fucking paces I've ever seen. Ever in the fucking ring. It was unbelievable. And people are fucking doubting this kid? I think it was crazy. Even in that fight, I thought it was 2-2 going into that final round. And until Covington fucking took that shot that dropped him, he was winning that last round. Call me crazy. Leave some comments on the fight below, or leave comments on the YouTube page below, right? If you guys think that I had that wrong going into that moment. But, I swear to God, Carl Usman won the first round. Colby won the second. I think Carl won the third. And then Colby definitely won the fourth. And like I said, he was winning the fifth until he got dropped, right? Once Usman's camp got wind that they had broke his jaw in the fourth, that's when he started to turn up the heat, right? It was an amazing scrap. I want to see Colby heal up, and I want to see these two scrap again. In my mind, you know what I mean? I guess Masvidal is next in line to take on Usman. But I kind of want to see Jorge fight against Diaz again. I want to see that get down to an actual, let's see that fight again. Much so, I want to see this fight again. I think that's what needs to happen. But at the same time, too, right? I can tell that Jorge wants, he wants that gold. Yeah, he's got the baddest motherfucker belt, but, you still want welterweight gold, right? He wants to be in that discussion of, you know what I mean, the GSPs, the Matt Hughes, right? I mean, that welterweight division is so stacked with legends, you know what I mean, that, I think that's, the premier division in the UFC is the welterweights. It has been for the longest time and probably will always be. Well, with that being said, folks, this has been another episode of The Undercard. Appreciate y'all for staying in and listening to me rant and rave about this. Anyways, any support is greatly welcome. Make sure to hit that subscribe button. Make sure to hit that little alarm button and stay up to date for any new postings that I have. Thank you once again. It's your host, Jeff Patello, and much love. Peace, y'all. Mwah!